Welcome back to the Navy Sports Magazine on the Navy Sports Network. Time to talk a little baseball right now with one of the hottest teams on the yard, and that's the Navy baseball team with left-hander Luke Gillingham. And for you all right now, you guys are rolling. What's been so successful for you guys in this latest stint for your ball club?
I don't know. That's a tough question. You know, we had a great spring break. We won about 9 games. I think we were just coming together as a team pretty well. Offensive, defensively, picking each other up. If a pitcher lets up, like example Towson game, where he came in, our best reliever lets up 3 runs. Next half inning, our offense picks him up and scores 3, and we win by 1. So you can't really put it on a single person, a single facet of the game, but I think we're coming together pretty well and picking each other up.
Is that a sign of a good team, though?
It is, yes, sir. It's essential. Like to figure this out early in order to realize later on you have the confidence to do something like that. You know, late inning rallies. Never out of the fight, pretty much.
Let's go back to Friday. I mean, you won't get a more exciting win than the kind of game it was Friday. You're playing a team out of the Big Ten. It's a low-scoring game. You know, every at-bat, there's tension and everything with every at-bat. Thoughts on the way your team responded in those late innings? I mean, as those at-bats dwindle as a team, the moments get more tense, and your teammates seem to handle that moment very well and eked out a 3-2 win on Friday. What does a win like that do for the overall morale of a club, because you're beating a Power 5 team and doing it in such dramatic fashion?
Coming into that game, the energy was very high. You're playing Big Ten school. We don't always get the chance to do that. There's never a thought of doubt coming into the game. We had George coming in, who's been throwing well, and he did outstanding that game. And also Andrew Bartek came in and really shut the door. In a low-scoring game, sometimes those relievers get outshined by the offense, but being able to throw up zeros, giving them a chance is really key, because our offense is never out. So we've done it before, like the day before against Towson. We can score late. We had a freshman come off the bench, hit a double off the wall, so that really inspired us, getting him in. And then going into the 9th inning, the bench, everything starts kind of with the energy of a club. So being able to pick up the energy in the later innings. Again, another freshman come off the bench with a huge hit, and then having Bob up there late in the game, he's done that 3 or 4 times in his career. There's a bunch of confidence that we were going to pull that out.
I was going to say, as a pitcher, I know you, because you're more experienced, you probably have as much confidence against anybody. But are you glad you don't have to face a Sean Trent or a Robert Curry on a regular basis? Because those two right now seem to be as locked in as you can be from a consistency standpoint. They can hit. Every hitter goes through a slump at some point. But those two guys right now just seem to be, when a pitcher makes a mistake, they make that pitcher pay for it.
That's right. Our pitching staff knows better than anybody, because we've pitched against those guys the fall, the winter, in the cages. I pitched against Bob for 4 years, and he's hit me pretty well for 4 years, so I know what they have to go through. Really tough guy to strike out. He's one of those guys, 2 strikes, he's never out of it. I remember, I think last year, I had him 2 strikes, and I threw one of my best curveballs, and he laced it down the right field line for a double. So, as a pitcher, when you have a guy like Sean Trent or Robert Curry or Travis Blue, Stephen Bourne, we got a deep offense this year, but when they're up at the plate, your confidence is through the roof. You let up a run or two, especially this year, that they're going to get us right back in the game.
When you look at the names that you're surrounded by right now in the Navy record book, I mean, the next guy ahead of you on the strikeout list is pitching in the major leagues right now. You look at what you've been able to accomplish here. Did you think that, through a 4-year career, you could find yourself to be that successful and get the kind of numbers that when you walk out of here, there are going to be very few names that are above yours on some of these lists?
Coming in, I had no idea that anything like this was going to happen. I was lucky to be mentored by some great seniors at my time here, like Ben Nelson, Tony Parenti, Matt Kilby, guys that just off the field are just great influences, and instilling the kind of hard work you need to be successful here. So coming in, I had no idea. Last year kind of took off, so I had to pretty much keep myself grounded, keep myself thinking game to game. It's one thing I try to tell our starters this year is when you're done with say you just threw a gem, you're thinking of the next week. So coming out, when I leave this place, I'll take a look then, but I don't really want to take a look right now.
Is it any extra pressure knowing that most Saturdays you're going to be seeing the number one on the other side, which means your level of perfection has to be outstanding because you, at least individually, can't control what that pitcher may do that day. Does that mental part of it ever come into play, or is it a case where you can block that stuff out pretty successfully and just go do your business on the mound?
I embrace it. I love it. I love pitching against our number one. I'm a pretty competitive guy, so knowing I'm going against Army's ace, Air Force's ace, knowing I got to keep the score low, it just brings a heightened energy to the game, brings the best out of me, best out of our offense, and especially when our offense scores a couple runs against them, I know I'm going to shut the other team down and we're going to walk away with a well-played game.
As a strikeout pitcher, do you ever get caught up in every now and then you feel like you got to make a perfect pitch every time? Sometimes that happens to strikeout pitchers. Sometimes they get in a little bit of trouble when you end up in a situation like that. Just something that strikeouts now just occur naturally for you and you just kind of get into your rhythm out there and your game plan with your catcher and what you're trying to do for each hitter?
One thing that made me really successful last year was, you don't hunt the strikeout when the count is 0-0. You gotta get ahead, stay low. I think Jake Arrieta said it on the Cubs in an interview last year. He said, I just keep the ball low and try to record outs early, and then if I get 2 strikes, I go hunting. So I've gotten in trouble, when I've started thinking in my head, like, I got to start racking up the strikeouts. So I start trying to make perfect pitches. Sometimes you miss over the plate, sometimes you miss up, you pitch outside of yourself, you make mistakes, and good offenses make you pay. So I think in order to be a successful strikeout pitcher, you have to just hunt the zone early, and if you're recording early outs, it's great because you can extend later on in the game. But when you get 2 strikes, there kind of has to be a mental switch that comes on. But at the same time, you can't go too far in one direction where you make mistakes or you end up walking someone.
You mentioned earlier the seniors who influenced you. Now that card is flipped, and you talked about some of the freshmen who've come through. You've got a guy in the rotation, and Noah Song, who looks like he's really got the opportunity to be a solid pitcher. What is that like now for you and the rest of the older players in the program who are now ready to influence those freshmen and try to get them on board with what Coach Kostakopoulos and the staff expect on a daily basis here?
It's really strange, actually. The first day I was standing in front of all the pitchers, and it's like, whoa, you're the guy this year. Like, they're looking up to you. So I try to, each leader's different. Ben wasn't a really verbal guy where Tony was. Right. So I just try to make sure I'm still myself. I'm not trying to act like somebody I'm not. Because, guys on the team will see right through that. So, in terms of Noah, I can really try to mentor him just because I've been a starter, so I know, like, what the mentality needs to be, going from start to start, and I can really tell he's gonna catch on pretty well.
Finally, for this team, with all the pressure of the preseason favorite role, so many individual honors before the season started, which means guys have to live up to that billing. You all embracing that as a team? Because right now, when you look at the league, you guys are the only ones that are off to the kind of start that you're off to. How do you maintain that now to which are going to be some dogfights weekend after weekend as the season goes along into April?
One thing Coach Applegate talked about to the pitchers, which I liked really well, he talked about it to me last year, was there's no secret about us this year. We got a big X on our back. So teams are going to throw their best at us every single weekend, and if we're not ready to fight them, then then we're gonna lose. You know, you can't roll your gloves out and expect a W just because of who you are and how you were favored at the beginning of the year. So there's no like sense of entitlement on our team, which I think is really well. I think Robert has done a great job as captain and keeping us focused on a day-to-day task. But we're just focused on the next game as a team. I really like our mentality going forward.
I appreciate the time. Best of luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
All right, Luke Gillingham joining us here on the Navy Sports Magazine. Lots of weekend action coming up at Max Bishop Stadium. Some prizes for you to be had as well when you come on out to the ballpark. Go to www.navysports.com.